In an unexpected twist that has left fans and critics alike stunned, gospel music legend Bill Gaither's emotional response to a life sentence has taken the internet by storm. But what's the real story behind this viral moment? Let's dive in. For over half a century, Bill Gaither wasn't just a name. He was a brand, a movement, a household presence for anyone raised on gospel hymns and Sunday morning television. With his velvety baritone and unwavering smile, he became the voice of faith for millions. Alongside his wife, Gloria, Gaither built an empire rooted in music, ministry, and Midwestern wholesomeness. Whether performing with the Gaither vocal band or hosting the wildly popular Homecoming series, his message was always clear: hope, grace, and redemption. Gaither was more than an entertainer. He was seen as a spiritual uncle to generations of churchgoers, the kind of man whose lyrics were quoted from pulpits and printed on prayer cards. He shared stages with pastors, politicians, and fellow gospel legends, cultivating an image so squeaky clean that scandals felt like something that only happened to other people. His concerts drew crowds in the thousands, not just for the music but for the reassurance, the nostalgia, the shared sense of values in a world that seemed to be changing too fast. So when rumors began to swirl, quietly at first, then with growing intensity, that something wasn't right behind the scenes, the disbelief was palpable. Fans brushed it off. Critics questioned the timing. How could Bill Gaither, of all people, be caught up in something criminal? The man who sang because he lives couldn't possibly be hiding something dark, right? And yet, as the months unfolded and whispers turned to headlines, that once unshakable image began to crack. The gospel world didn't just feel stunned, it felt betrayed. For decades, Bill Gaither was synonymous with faith, family, and harmony, literally and figuratively. But all of that came crashing down when headlines broke about a courtroom bombshell that no one saw coming. The gospel icon, who helped define Southern gospel music for generations, was now at the center of a jaw-dropping legal scandal. It started quietly, with murmurs of an investigation swirling behind closed doors. At first, fans dismissed the whispers as baseless rumors. After all, how could someone like Gaither, known for his pristine image and deep roots in Christian ministry, possibly be tied to anything criminal? But the truth unraveled quickly. Prosecutors laid out a timeline stretching back several years, citing a series of financial dealings that blurred the lines between philanthropy and fraud. According to court documents, Gaither had allegedly been involved in a complex web of shell companies, offshore accounts, and questionable charitable foundations. What appeared on the surface as generous giving and legitimate business was painted in court as a deliberate scheme to launder millions. Even more damning were the testimonies. Former associates turned witnesses, revealing a side of the gospel giant the public had never seen. Then came the real gut punch: federal charges of conspiracy, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. The trial was swift, but the public response was anything but. The courtroom was packed with longtime fans, loyal churchgoers, and members of the gospel community, many of whom struggled to reconcile the man on trial with the man whose music had comforted them through the darkest nights. The judge didn't mince words when the sentence was delivered: life imprisonment, citing a systematic betrayal of public trust and a decades-long deception under the guise of righteousness. It was a moment that shook the foundation of an entire musical movement. Gaither, once a fixture of Sunday mornings and gospel music festivals, was now etched into history for all the wrong reasons. But what truly set the internet ablaze wasn't the sentence itself, it was his reaction. And that, as you'll see next, is where things took a turn no one could have predicted. It was the kind of silence that swallows a courtroom whole. As the judge read the words life imprisonment, Bill Gaither didn't flinch, not at first. His eyes stayed locked forward, lips pressed into a line, as if trying to process a sentence that didn't belong to him. Then, slowly, something shifted. His shoulders slumped. His breathing grew shallow. And in the span of seconds, the man who once stood as a pillar of faith completely unraveled before the world's eyes. A single tear slid down his cheek, followed by another. But it wasn't the crying that shocked everyone, it was what came next. As the courtroom buzzed with gasps, Gaither stood up, turned to the crowd behind him, and whispered, almost inaudibly, "I never stopped believing." That one phrase, just 4 words, hit the internet like a grenade. Within minutes, clips of the moment were circulating on social media. TikTok stitched it with old concert footage, fans crying while reacting in real time. Memes, remixes, dramatic voiceovers, you name it, it happened. But amid all the viral noise, there was a genuine, electric confusion. Was this the breakdown of a guilty man grappling with justice? Or the final plea of someone who still saw himself as innocent? His trembling voice cracked as he added, "Even now, I forgive." Some saw grace. Others saw performance. The reaction was polarizing, dividing even his most loyal fanbase. Was it a raw human moment, or a calculated move from someone who'd built a career on spiritual optics? The clip racked up millions of views within hours. Hashtags like #GaitherVerdict and #ICan'tBelieveBill trended worldwide. Gospel radio stations went silent. Pastors who had once booked him were suddenly issuing statements. And the question everyone kept asking wasn't just about the crimes. It was about that moment. That look in his eyes. That voice. That breakdown. Because as one user on X, formerly Twitter, put it, it wasn't just Bill Gaither falling, it was everything he stood for. The internet didn't just react to Bill Gaither's courtroom collapse, it devoured it. Within hours, the clip of his tear-streaked face and whispered, "I never stopped believing," was everywhere, looping endlessly across TikTok, Instagram Reels, and late-night Twitter threads. It wasn't just viral, it was cultural. News anchors debated its authenticity. Influencers cried on camera while recounting their childhood memories of Gaither's music, and TikTok detectives began analyzing the footage frame by frame, claiming they could see the exact second he snapped. Some users were sympathetic, dubbing it the final prayer of a broken man. Others were far more cynical. "That was Oscar level," one user wrote, overlaying his breakdown with the infamous "and the Academy Award goes to" soundtrack. One satirical post even mashed up Gaither's teary face with lyrics from his own songs, Because He Lied, and racked up over 2 million likes before being taken down for insensitivity. Media outlets ran wild. The fall of a gospel giant, from hymns to handcuffs, and When Faith Meets Fraud became the day's top headlines. Podcasts churned out emergency episodes. YouTubers dropped hour-long breakdowns of the Gaither trial and its viral moment, complete with reaction cams and monetized outrage. Even mainstream celebs chimed in, some offering prayers, others offering shade. Chrissy Teigen tweeted, "Somebody better check if Kirk Franklin's okay," while Questlove simply posted a black square captioned, "Speechless." Then came the real debate, cancel or redemption. Evangelical communities were torn down the middle. Some pastors begged for forgiveness on his behalf, calling him a man under attack from the enemy. Others publicly distanced themselves, scrubbing past collaborations and issuing stern condemnations. One megachurch in Atlanta pulled all Gaither music from their Sunday setlists. A prominent Christian bookstore chain pulled his entire catalog out of respect for ongoing legal proceedings. Still, fan accounts flooded in. People who'd met him at signings. Survivors who claimed his music helped them through grief. Testimonials of hope, guilt, confusion. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was a cultural litmus test, a line in the sand, and everyone had something to say. And yet, in the middle of the noise, one question remained louder than all the opinions swirling around him. Was Bill Gaither truly guilty, or just human? When a figure as beloved as Bill Gaither falls, the fallout isn't limited to headlines. It's personal. For fans, collaborators, and celebrities who built their platforms in the orbit of Gaither's influence, his sentencing and viral courtroom moment forced a decision. Speak up, stay quiet, or carefully craft the kind of PR statement that says everything and nothing all at once. The most immediate response came from the Southern gospel community, where reactions split faster than a church board during budget season. Longtime Gaither vocal band member Guy Penrod posted a solemn photo of a lit candle with the caption, "Still praying for truth and healing." That's all I'll say. Mark Lowry, known for his humor, offered a more conflicted take during a live-streamed Q&A. "I don't know what's true anymore. I just know I loved that man like a brother." He choked up halfway through and ended the stream early. Then came the silence, the kind that speaks volumes. Names like Michael W. Smith, Amy Grant, and CeCe Winans, all of whom had shared stages with Gaither, went dark on the topic. No posts, no comments, no subtle nods. Their absence didn't go unnoticed. Fans flooded their pages with comments like, "Why haven't you said anything?" And "You sang with him for years. Where do you stand now?" The pressure to pick a side was real, and in today's hyper-online culture, neutrality is a luxury few can afford. On the flip side, some seized the moment. Christian rapper Lecrae tweeted, "When platforms matter more than people, this is what happens." The cryptic message set off a flurry of interpretations, with some praising him for calling out hypocrisy, while others accused him of taking a swipe without offering substance. Meanwhile, country star Reba McEntire, surprisingly, weighed in during a backstage interview. "It hurts. I toured with Bill. He brought hope into a lot of people's lives. That doesn't just disappear overnight." Her words were clipped, emotional, and rewatched millions of times. Public reaction was even more volatile. Devoted fans created hashtags like #StandWithGaither and #GraceForBill, flooding social media with testimonials and old concert clips. Others, especially former insiders and critics, weren't having it. One viral tweet read, "If this was a pop star or politician, y'all would be screaming for justice. But because he sang about Jesus, suddenly it's complicated." That tweet alone sparked an online war. In churches, families, and group chats across America, the Gaither case became more than a scandal. It became a referendum. On faith, on accountability, on whether someone who spent a lifetime preaching forgiveness deserved any himself. And as lines were drawn, one thing became clear. This wasn't just about Bill Gaither anymore. Behind every public scandal is a trail of people who saw the cracks before the collapse. And in Bill Gaither's case, the whispers started years ago, quiet, coded, and mostly dismissed. But now, in the wake of his sentencing and viral courtroom breakdown, former insiders are coming forward, hinting that the downfall may not have been as sudden as it seemed. According to several former employees and collaborators, some speaking anonymously, others not, there were red flags. Subtle, but present. Questionable financial decisions brushed off as ministry expenses. A rotating door of business managers. Sudden changes to ownership structures within Gaither Music Group. One former tour manager described a shift in Gaither's demeanor around 2018. He was still warm on stage, but off stage, he started isolating. Kept everything close to the chest. It stopped feeling like a mission and started feeling like a brand. And then there's the family dynamic. While Gloria Gaither has remained notably silent throughout the ordeal, sources close to the family say she was deeply conflicted, torn between loyalty and truth. One family friend alleged that tensions within the Gaither household had been building for years, particularly around business decisions made without transparency. This wasn't just a legal unraveling, the source said. It was personal, and it had been brewing for a long time. Those close to the industry say Gaither's empire was more than music. It was a tightly controlled machine. Concerts, DVDs, conferences, cruises, even Gaither-themed retirement communities. Behind the scenes, it required not just charisma, but control. And when questions began surfacing, quietly, internally, many chose to look away. It was easier to believe the man who wrote, "He touched me," than to dig deeper. One ex-employee admitted. There were attempts to intervene. A well-known Christian accountant reportedly tried to flag irregularities in tax filings tied to a charitable foundation under Gaither's name. His warnings went ignored. That same accountant has now become a key witness for the prosecution, though his identity has yet to be made public. And then there's the matter of the vault, a rumored archive of private recordings, business documents, and personal letters that only a handful of people have ever seen. Some claim it holds proof of Gaither's innocence. Others believe it's a blueprint of everything that went wrong. What's in it, and whether it will ever see the light of day, remains a mystery. What we do know is this: the man the world saw on stage, gentle, faithful, full of grace, was also a man surrounded by growing shadows. Whether he was a willing architect of deception or just a figurehead who lost control of his kingdom is still a matter of debate. But one thing's for sure, behind the scenes, the fall of Bill Gaither didn't happen overnight. It happened in whispers, in rooms with closed doors, and in the silence of those who didn't speak until now. Now that the dust has settled, at least for the moment, the world is left with a far more complicated version of Bill Gaither than the one it once knew. He's no longer just the gospel giant who penned hymns of hope and hosted beloved homecomings. He's now a symbol of contradiction, the faithful icon whose fall from grace became a global spectacle and whose future, for the first time in decades, no longer includes a stage. With a life sentence hanging over him and his viral breakdown still echoing across timelines, the question isn't just what's next for Gaither, but what's next for everyone who built their faith, family memories, and fandom around him. Already, the ripple effects are unmistakable. Gaither Music Group is reportedly under review, with legal experts predicting a wave of lawsuits from former partners, investors, and donors. Some music distributors have begun quietly pulling his catalog, while others are leaning into the renewed attention, pushing his older albums under the banner of legacy content. Meanwhile, YouTube comment sections on his old performances have become digital confessionals, part tribute, part reckoning. But even in disgrace, Gaither's influence hasn't vanished. The people who sang his songs at funerals, weddings, revivals, they're still grappling with the dissonance. Can the message outlive the messenger? Or has the messenger irreversibly changed the message? Behind bars, Gaither's team says he's begun writing again, poems, letters, reflections. Whether these writings will be published is unclear, but insiders hint at a possible final testimony that could be released posthumously, or even while he serves his sentence. One source close to the family said, he believes his story isn't over. He thinks there's still something God wants him to say. Some are holding out hope for redemption, not from the courts, but from the court of public opinion. After all, if Christian culture is built on forgiveness, how could it not at least entertain the idea of grace? Even here, others are more cynical. This isn't a scandal you bounce back from. One former collaborator said bluntly, this is legacy-level damage. And so, the Gaither story enters its most uncertain chapter. One where the melodies have stopped, the lights are dimmed, and all that's left is a complicated silence. Whether that silence becomes a moment of reflection, or the end of a long career filled with both harmony and hypocrisy, remains to be seen.